Welcome to a new lesson. In this lesson, we will discuss slope-intercept form of the equation for a linear function. So what is the slope-intercept form? There's an equation y equals mx plus b. The m, the coefficient in front of the x, defines slope, and b defines the y-intercept. So let's use some examples. In this, we're going to graph a linear function that has a slope of 3/5 and y-intercept of -4. We're going to also write an equation for this function. Let's write the equation for this function first. We know that equation in slope-intercept, y-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, where the slope in this case is 3/5, 3 divided by 5, and the slope is -4, so -4. Here is the equation of our line, of our linear function. Now, how to graph it? We always start at the y-intercept. So we're going to start at the y-intercept, that is where the y is equivalent to -4, and it's right here. This is -4. Going downwards, and we're going to use the slope to draw the next point. Now, how to do that? We know that the slope is a fraction. The 3 is the rise. That means our graph will go 3 units up and always 5 units across to the right. So let's do that. Let's move 3 units up, 1, 2, from the -4, and 5 units across, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that is the location of the second point on this line. We connect the points by the line, and this is what our linear function looks like. Let's move on to the next question. Graph the linear function with the equation y equals 1/2 x plus 3. So we have to again recognize that the coefficient in front of the x is our slope. It says that for every 2 movements to the right or across, we have 1 movement up, while the 3 tells us that this is the y-intercept. So we're going to graph it. Again, we start at the y-intercept, which is 3. 1, 2, 3. And for each movement to the right, because that's what the 2 means, we go 1 movement to up. We could do the same thing, 2 movements to the right and 1 movement up. And there are 3 points in this case. We connect the points, and here is the graph of our equation. Let's move on to the next question. Write an equation to describe this function and verify the equation. So now, instead of having an equation or slope or y-intercept, we have a graph. And from this graph, we need to see the equation that we get from it. So again, we always start at the y-intercept. In this case, the y-intercept tells us that it's -4. Recall that our equation has to equal y equals mx plus b, and we know that the y-intercept is -4. So we have a value for b, y-intercept. Now we have to find the slope. That's the little tricky part. In this case, we're going to start from the left, and what you're looking for is where the line touches both of the grids, meaning it touches right here, it touches right there, and also touches right there. Grid lines mean these lines right here. And why these grid lines? Because we can tell exactly at which point the line touches because of these grid lines. So let's take a look at the first grid line, the intersection. So, and then the second one to the right is here. So we're going to count how many units we, in this case, go down. 1, 2, and 3. 3 units down. And how many units we go across or to the right. 1, 2. We know that slope is rise over run. So rise over run is slope. And therefore, since we are going downwards, our rise is going to be negative 3 and 2 across. It's always positive. So this is our slope. This is the m value. So we write the m value into our equation. It is negative 3/2, and don't forget the x. And this is our solution. And our last example. The student council sponsored a dance. A ticket costs $5 and the cost of the DJ was $300. Write an equation for the profit, P dollars, on the sale of the T tickets. So we're looking for the profit. And T tickets is the number of tickets sold. So what is profit exactly? Profit is equal to income minus the cost. Now, for profit, we know the cost of the DJ is 300, so we're going to subtract that from 300. But we do not know how many tickets being sold. But we know that it's $5 per ticket. So if we sold one ticket, it's going to be 5 times 1, and the income is going to be $5. If we have 10 tickets sold, then the income is going to be $50, 5 times 10. But since we do not know how many tickets are being sold, we're going to just multiply this by, in this case, T. So the income is 5T, and the profit is, or we're going to call it P, 5T minus 300. So this is for part A. Now suppose 123 people bought the tickets. What is the profit? That means our T value is 123. So our profit for B is 5 times 123 minus 300. So in this case, our profit turns out to be $315. That's our profit. Now what about C? Suppose that the profit was 350. How many people bought the tickets? So that's a little bit tricky. So we're looking for the T value. So we're going to erase everything, and we're going to keep the profit equation. So here's our equation. P equals 5T minus 300. Now the profit is 350, and we want to find out how many tickets are sold. So we're going to solve for T. And the way we're going to do it is by doing the opposites. We're going to separate or isolate T from all the other numbers. The way we do that is that we add 300 to both sides of the equation. So 350 plus 300 on the left-hand side is 650. And negative 300 plus 30 is 0. So we just have 5T on the other side. Recall that there's an operation of multiplication between 5 and T. And to separate the T from the 5, we have to divide both sides by 5. Therefore, our T is equal to 650 divided by 5, which is 130. That means there are 130 tickets have to be sold for a profit to 350 to be made. And the last question, could the profit be exactly 146 and justify your answer? So let's plug that into our original profit equation. Profit is 5T minus 300, and let's plug that in. 146 is equal to 5T minus 300. And then, like we did in the C question, we add 300 to both sides. 300 plus 146 is 446. That's equal to 5t because negative 300 plus 300 is 0. And then again, we multiply both sides, divide both sides by 5. And we get the ticket value, or number of tickets, to be 89.2 tickets. But how can you sell 0.2 of a ticket? You either sell 1, 2, but you can't sell a fraction of a ticket. That is why can't have, or the profit cannot be exactly $146 because we can't have a fraction of a ticket. And here is your lesson.